Well, perfect. Okay, so let's get started, and if anybody else shows up, we'll catch them back up. So the things I want to do is I want to talk about reverse pitching, and then I want to kind of give you some facts and figures and dates and times and answer any questions you might have about being a challenge author and participating in this event. So there's Garrett. Hello, Garrett. Welcome. So I'm doing something a little different this time. Normally I have been using a pitch deck or a presentation deck that was geared towards pitching and like investor pitching. And I've come to realize that that's not very helpful to you guys. And I'm glad Garrett's here because this is like his 4th or 5th year. So he might be a great resource for, like hints and tips and things like that. So let me get the deck started. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. I just want to kind of get the highlights, and then I will share the deck with you guys along with the reported link so that you can refer to it later. Let me get it in presentation mode. And then I'm going to share. One more second for me. There we go. Okay, so, normally when people are reverse pitching, they're in a room with somebody. We're going to be doing Zoom, so it's a little different, but the concepts are all the same. So the things we're going to be going over today is defining the problem, how to frame your challenges, how to communicate your desired outcome, your constraints or resources that you have for your challenge, and then engaging your participants. I gotta mess with my lips so I can read it better. Okay, so one of the really important things, and Garrett, if you have a comment in this section, is the clear communication of what your problem is and what you're looking for. You want to avoid vague statements or overcomplicating the issue. Remember that the 2 things that are important to remember about the hackathon is they only have 4 weeks. What we'll end up with is something like a prototype or a proof of concept. You will not get a enterprise level ready app to distribute to people, but it can prove the concept. And then, if you really like the team that came up with your idea, you can work with them. And we're trying to use some of the money that we have generated through sponsorship to help potentially do that. So keep that in mind in the back, that we might be able to help you get it to the next level with some resources. I also know some of your programs have internships, so maybe you could also bring the teams in, or the key component of a team in to help you with that way. So again, it's really important that you are communicating the problem very clearly. Otherwise, you get vague solutions. Next is framing the challenge. The things you want to think about is the background. Why does this problem exist? Specific problem. What is the core issue of that problem? Who does it impact, and how would the new solution improve those people impacted by the problem? And the urgency. How quickly do you need this to be solved? Now, again, for the tech, that's not quite as relevant, but because it's not like you are trying to solve, a healthcare problem, right? But the point is that you want to express these things to them, because this is how you frame your challenge, is how you can communicate with them what you're seeking or where you're trying to go. Your desired outcome. You want to really make sure that you state this. We have that, if you remember, on your use case, there was a section for that. And so that's where you mostly want to generate the real hardcore details, desired outcomes. But you do want to mention it in your presentation. You want to make sure that they're aware not only what the problem is, but what you're hoping to achieve. And, some of your visions, you can share your visions of how you think it could be solved, but be careful not to give too many constraints, because you want to let them, free flow, because you come up with some really great solutions if you don't over engineer what you're trying to do. And then you should describe your ideal result. So Richard, I'm going to use you an example. Richard's trying to do a game that is similar to Pokemon. And so his is going to be a little more constricted. No, that's not the right word. Conscripted. Being words, it's going to be a little more conscripted because he's saying something like Pokemon, right? So, but he wants to share that because in this case, he's looking to like use that as an example of what he's trying to achieve. And if you have something like that, so I know the Tyler Challenge is about AI, a concierge and a bot. So you want to kind of talk about, you know, hey, any AI program you want to use, however, it should be able to do this, right? So that's where you want to, so you describe the problem, you describe what you're hoping to achieve, who is affected, and then what you're trying to achieve. That's the next part. Sorry, I was out of order there in my head. So it's also important to know what your constraints and your resources are. First of all, constraints, you need to make sure they know, for example, you don't want to, if you don't have, if you're not going to have a platform, like so, if you're not going to have access to Salesforce as a platform, you want to let people know that if they build on a Salesforce platform, it's going to be completely useless to you. So if you have constraint, that's the kind of constraints you want to be aware of. But if you have no constraints, then you can just say, do what I would love to see any and every solution and go from there. You want to clarify what's essential and what's optional. One of the other challenges, who's not here today, she's doing an energy display app. And we were able to get data for her from HACC. But what's important for her is she also said they're building a little house at her museum, and she wants the data to be supplied directly into the house through Arduinos. That's a nice to have. That would be like really cool, but not required. She's looking to focus on the display approach first, and then she'll work out how to get the data into the house itself. So you see, but we kept the Arduino part in there because the recommendation of Phil Johnson, one of our professors at UH, said, we have engineers who might really want to take that on. And I'm like, okay, well, leave it, because I was like, take that out. That's, we know it. And he said, leave it in. So that's a nice to have. That's an extra. So if you feel like there's something in yours that's extra, great. Richard's game, there's some components of alternate reality, not alternate reality, I'm sorry.
Yeah, augmented reality.
Augmented reality, there you go, yeah. Alternate reality, okay, great. Yeah, Gary's laughing. Yeah. Augmented reality, and so depending on how much, but I know that's kind of that might be a must-have for you, but you may want to say, okay, this version of augmented reality would be really great to start with, but if you want to get really fancy, go for it, right? So I'm just okay. So that's the difference between, you know, things that you really need essential and things that you don't. The other thing is resources. If you have any data that they can use and you have access to it, again, sorry, Richard, I keep picking on you. If you have the images of the birds and you want to say where they're geolocated, so that you give that geolocation data to the teams, you should supply that to them. Yep. My example for the HACC data, I have an Excel spreadsheet and a bunch of links so that they don't have to go scrape. Their recommendation from the challenge author was, go to Home Depot and look it up and write it. I'm like, no. So, and, you know, don't go to Home Depot and start looking up appliance data, go to HACC, and HACC's one of our sponsors this year. So they're like, oh, sure, here's data. So they're going to get, you know, a mention. But so if you have any kind of data, I know, Rebecca, you're working on some stuff, and sometimes it's not data, it's just what resources you want to provide. So I don't know exactly what your chat bot or your bot's going to be doing, Alaya. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right.
Aliyah.
Aliyah, thank you. Aliyah, I don't know exactly what your chatbot data, but you should be pointing them in the direction of what the kind of information your chatbot should be delivering, right? Because not all chatbots don't have to be everything and everything. It could be chatbots about how to interact with the Hawaii state government, right? And you can narrow it down if you want. Garrett, I know you're doing a and I have it in the a digital. Go ahead, give me the rest of it.
So we're doing a digital navigator resourcing
There we go.
and scheduling app.
Perfect. So whatever data they need to use to help them do that, or links, sometimes it's not data, it's just you need to go here to this URL or this API. I'm assuming most of you, everybody in this room knows what an API is. I can never translate it, but I know what it is. So point them in the right direction. There's two ways to deliver that data. One, you mention it in your presentation. You put links in your Slack channel, and anything you want me to share, so share with them, I will share with them on the HACC website. The other thing is sometimes you don't have data, you want to collect data. So a good example of that is a Department of Agricultural challenge that we did a few years ago. They were trying to collect information on invasive species. And they want people, they say they wanted an app built that people went out and took photographs of plants and animals and then submitted them back into the app. This was also another one from HPU last year. It was marine waste. They wanted people to take pictures and submit them in. So this was them collecting the data, and then they asked not only the data tool to collect that data, but to present it to the end users, right? So think about what your apps need and make sure that we supply that, because the more comprehensive information you give to the teams, the more likely they're going to pick your app to solve. Okay. Now, make sure in your presentation are 10 minutes long max. You don't have to go into every little, and we need data on A and B and C. You just need to give them a high level. The 10 minutes is not much time, so you need to keep it at a high level there, right? For your data, what kind of data you're looking for. Explain to them what you're trying to achieve. Collaborations. So notice I have a little HACC window up there. If you haven't already joined, I'm going to put in chat here the link to the Slack channel. It's important that you join. Hang on a minute while I copy that. Chat. This link for everybody, if you're at UH, I have to give you the long link. So hang on a second while I pull that in. So the short link you can use if you're not at hawaii.gov. If you are at hawaii.gov, you need to use the second one there. Shortened URLs are not valid for UH agencies. Okay. So I think that's only one of you, the Shelby and Rebecca. The reason this is important is you are going to, and I'll share the screen with you shortly. You're going to have a channel on this HACC website. Mine's purple, yours can be whatever color you want it to be. And I have set up the challenge channels, and I'll share that with you when I get off this place. So you want to, when you're giving your presentation, you want to tell a story and engage with your the potential teams. You want them to get excited about what you're asking them to do. Then you need to be open to questions. So there's going to be 2 time slots at which we ask you to come for an hour each time and meet with teams to answer their questions. That will be the Saturday afternoon, October 12th, after you give your presentation in the morning. And then the following weekend, October 19th in the afternoon. We have a training session in the morning, and then about 11:30, we ask you to come from 11:30, about 12:30, 12:45. And then we'll again ask you, we'll put you in a breakout room in Zoom and ask you to answer questions from the teams, and they'll come and ask you questions. The other thing is they're directed to come ask you questions on your Slack channel. So I tell them that you're going to respond within 24 hours. So you don't have to be sitting there watching your Slack channel and answering immediately. But I do want you to kind of be, stay on top of it, especially in the first couple of weeks. That's when people really start asking questions and getting all engaged. The more responsive you are, the better. I've seen huge, great solutions for the team, the challenges that have had a lot of engagement happening on Slack. The other important thing to know is you must not direct message anybody. If they direct message you, you go, hey, I'll put your answer over in the channel, because it's really invalid. This is a type of an event. It's open. It's all open and positive, and we want it to all be transparent. So I don't want you to answer a question in direct message that nobody else gets that answer, and so that team gets an advantage. It's a level playing field. So it's really important that even if somebody direct messages you or even emails you, you then take that question, you put it in Slack, and you give them the answer in your channel, and then you answer it in that channel. Okay. Clarifications and be available for follow-up. And that's, again, the place where I want you to be interacting with people after those 2 open sessions is in Slack. The other thing I want to invite you to is the final day of the challenge is the presentation day is on November 16th. From about 9:30 to about 1 o'clock, 1:30 is the presentation and the award ceremony. I recommend you come and see what they come up with, because it's brilliant stuff. It never ceases to amaze me how amazing what they developed in 3 weeks or 4 weeks time. It's awe-inspiring. This year we also have an expo following the event where if your department or your agency is looking for tech people, it's a time to meet and connect with the people who participated, who now you've kind of vetted them as people who might have the chops to help you with your problems and to take it to the next level. Okay, so just a quick summary. The concept of a reverse pitch is you're learning how to be effectively asking for help, essentially. Clarity in what you need, what your problem is, what you're trying to solve, who you're trying to solve it for, the data you need or the data you want them to use. Make sure that that's all there. Make sure you have a story, get some emotions involved, because nobody wants to solve, well, we have this thing we want to do, like if you're and you're not all engaged in it yourself, you're not going to engage them. So you want to get them excited. We're trying to protect the bird species of Hawaii by, really getting visitors and, residents engaged, and you can help us do that by creating skit, right? Sorry, Rich, yours is easy. So you see,
I'm taking the cues. Thanks. Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're getting them excited about your challenge. Yeah. I'm telling you, every one of your challenges has some really cool components to it. I love that there's a lot of AI going on here as well. We have AI, we're doing AI training. So this is exciting stuff. So you by being emotional and being excited about your own challenge will help them be excited about it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
And so that's why engaging your audience is through storytelling and being open and available to answer questions. And then effective communication is defining the problem and defining the desired outcome. I don't want to just read this stuff. So the other thing I want to remind everybody of is our reverse pitches are happening on Zoom. They're not in person. So you're going to be on your computer. You're going to have your own deck. You're going to be given the power to present. And then you'll be spotlighted on the screen so that everybody can see you and your pitch. And then we'll record that, and we'll cut up the videos so that we can then attach them to the HACC website, so people can watch your presentation, look at your use case, see whatever data files you have. If you have a your decks that you create, if you can give me copies of that, that would be great as well. If you don't want to give it to me until after the pitch, that's fine, because I just, you know, particularly if you're continuing to tweak it, that's fine. If you don't need to be tweaking it, get it to me earlier, because if something happens with your computer and you can dial up in the phone and we can then have it presented on my computer, that just gives us a viable alternative. So so what will happen is you'll come in a little earlier than everybody else. We'll assign you a number, the order of the pitches, which I'm gonna, you know, kind of give you now, and I will share this with you again. Hang on, I'm gonna go back to my records. So Garrett, you're up first. And then we go to Tyler, Hawaii. Then we go to Rebecca to ETS. Then we go to Bert, who's not here right now. Then we go to you, Richard. And then our final one is Dana, who's also not here for the museum, the Hawaii KK Museum. That's the order. I will reiterate that to you. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize that, but that's the order you're going to be pitching in. That's the order that now is locked in. That's the order that presentation day will flow in, and so forth. The other thing you need to know is that we have 3 award categories this year. We used to only have 2. I mean, we had 3, but it was adults and teens. I put it that way. And then we had 2 awards under the adult level. Now we have high school, middle school, college, professional. So the presentations will be given all the high school ones, so that you're, if you know, if your challenge was if one of your teams was a high school and their score was high enough to pass into the presentation day with your challenge will appear there. If your challenge also was good enough by a college team, it'll appear there. And then the third time it'll show up is in the professional. Now, the reason I'm splitting them up that way is so that the judges can judge all of them with the same level. So, because it's not based upon, people don't win based upon your challenge or not, right? They win the category of being in high school. So if they give a great presentation and have a great app, and it doesn't matter whether it's your challenge or their challenge, it's important that they compare all the high schools together, all the college together, all the adults together, and professionals, I mean, not adults. Okay. And so you may have your challenge may appear in 3 different slots during that day. So it used to be you could come in at the end and just watch your little period, but it's not going to be that way this year. And I just wanted to do it that way because I wanted the judges to see all the same level of awards at the same time. Okay. Let's see what else I have here. Okay, so thank you all so much. That's how you reach me on Slack at Thelma. I think that's all I have. You have to do. If you start typing in at Thelma, you'll find me. That's my email address. I've already put the Slack in there. The other link I want to share with you, hang on a second while I do that, is to please register for the kickoff day. Got to get your email. Hang on a second. I've got to get the link. And then this way, you'll get all the, and I'll also make sure you have more details, but this is one of the ways you get the Zoom links and so forth. Okay. Is by registering. Okay, so before I ask if you have any questions for me, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And I'm going to bring up another screen. So you should all be seeing right now is a Slack interface. I have it on my computer. You can also do it in a portal, in a web page. This just alerts me, so and I interact in Slack a lot. But what I want to point out here is I have the portal set up for each of you. So once you guys join, I'll add you to this. These are open. You can join on your own. And if you already had been in here, I added you. So like, for example, Garrett's already been added in here. Bob and Brian Murphy, Bob Mueller, Molnar, and Brian Murphy joined because trying to encourage people to use Salesforce for this challenge. They're collaborating with UH on that. So, and I put these in here now so that you guys can connect to them. And that means anybody can connect to them now because they're open, but there's no details here yet. So I released the details of your challenge on Monday, October 7th. I post the use case and just a little brief description that I pulled from basically from your use case, plus where the channel that they should be looking for you on, who the presenter is. Okay. And I'm going to put that on the website, and I'm also going to put those things on the Slack channel. So you don't need to handle that. I just want consistency. Now, if you don't like the description I put on Slack, feel free to edit it. All you have to do is come here. There'll be an added description here, and then you'll be able to actually edit it as well. Okay. So as you guys join, I'll move you in to your and that just is the way that's done is you if I come up here and you click on that link, you see settings and members. I can see add people. So like if I add you and a couple of your teammates join and you want their help, you can feel free to add them in there, or they can join themselves, because again, I made these open channels. Okay. And after I add whatever I add, if there's more content or data or URLs you want to add, this is the place to do it. This is the conversation place. This is the interaction space. And if there's things missing from, I don't put as much on the website because after a certain point, people come here for all their information. Okay, that's it for me. What questions do you guys have for me? Any?
I have a question. How do I join the Slack group? I couldn't.
You have to use the long one. Are you on your phone or are you on?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. HACC. I can see HACC 2022.
No, what you're looking for is hacknetwork.slack.com. I can send you an invite if you want. That sometimes makes it faster.
Oh, if you could, that would be great. Anyone else need the invite?
Yeah, and I should send it to your Hawaii.gov email. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Thelma, could you send that to me as well, please?
I will.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
So I'm going to invite a bunch of you. Anybody else need me to invite them? Becca. And an email will come in saying you've been invited. I just have to get your email address, Richard. Hang on a second here. You don't use Richard.
I use Rich, R-I-C-H.
You
Yep, Rich Downs, Gmail.
want to use this one? This is one I've been using for you.
Yep, that works. Yep.
Okay. Anybody else want to be invited? who's not already in there? All right, there you go. Okay, so once you get that invite, you just accept it. If you have any other problems, let me know. Okay, so I want to remind you, October 12th, your presentations start about 10 a.m. and they last 10 minutes. So there's 6 of you, so that's a whole hour with some breaks in between while we transition and comments get made. Then we have a 15-minute break. Then we have a presentation from Microsoft at first. So you guys get like a 45-minute break or so. You can go have lunch. Then I ask you to be back there by, I think it's, here, let me go look at my script. I kept that open because I wanted to make sure I knew to tell you guys when. You guys will come back on around 1 o'clock-ish. And again, just be aware that that's an estimate, because if things lag or speed up, like if you guys are like, boom, I had 1 year, I had it all planned out and every presenter took 4 minutes. And so I had all this time, like, so think about that. So it goes from 60 minutes to what's 4 times 6, right? So like half the time, 24 minutes. And so I'm like, oh shoot, we're a half an hour ahead and my next person's not there because they thought they didn't have to be. So always, you know, be aware that I say it's about 1 o'clock, but it might be 12:30. So,
Sure.
and you'll know by the time you take the break that you need to be back in a half an hour, right?
Yeah.
So we just
Okay.
ask, and sometimes I tell people to just leave their Slack on, go have their sandwich in the other room and come back, right? And then you don't have to re-log in, and because once you log back out and log back in, you lose your hosting credentials that we give you and all this stuff. So we also, if you want, we can do a practice session the week of October 7th. We can either do it one-on-one or as a group. And that basically, I set up a Slack channel just like you do, and then I have you turn on make sure you know how to share, make sure that you know what you're doing, and that, you know, turning on your cameras. I mean, I'm sure we're all kind of more experts these days than not, but you know, it's a varying degree. Make sure your Zoom is up to the latest version. It helps with moving around the rooms later on in the day. Then the other thing I would highly encourage is, ooh, I lost my own train of thought. That's really bad. Okay, so the bottom line is that let's plan to have a training session, and I can make it a group session. We'll keep it really brief. You basically just go on and off. We'll tell you what we do is when you come in that morning, we tell you what your presentation order is again, and then we have you put the number, like, so if you're 1 like Garrett, you put an 01 in front of your name, and then you put Garrett, Garrett, right? And if you're second, and so forth. So that's way you can, we know, and then it also pulls everybody to the top, because we get like 150, 250 people show up to this thing. And so it helps us find you, and it lets me spotlight you and stuff before you present, so that a spotlight would look like something like this. So if I spotlight me, which I think I can do, so I get spotlighted. Now, if I had a presentation up, my presentation would be over to one side, and then there would be a little image of me over to the side, and it works really nicely for cutting and pasting later on. Okay, so other questions? Garrett, do you have any pearls of wisdom to drop on my fresh out of the blocks challenge authors?
Just a quick handful of them. So remember the audience. So the core of the audience is really teenagers and 20-somethings, right? So you're not talking to some group of business analysts that are trying to, you know, figure out how to make this work. You're talking to some relatively junior talent, which sometimes is really good because they get creative,
Mhm.
come up with solutions that maybe you don't think about. So what Thelma said about not predefining the solution is really good. So figure out a way to describe the problem that's short and concise. Tell a story, which is probably one of the reasons many of these are going to run shorter than 10 minutes, and that's
Yep,
okay,
yep,
right?
yep.
It's absolutely okay. You don't want to take the full 10 minutes if you don't have to, because remember the audience. If they get distracted, they're just going to lose it and they're not going to pay attention to the rest of it. So short and sweet is great. Tell a good story and try and weave in the things that you need them to do. You can always put details later on in the Slack channel. That's a great place to just dump a bunch of stuff if you want them to concentrate and read through stuff. Don't try and deliver it in the pitch, because that's not the right place. And then again, just have some fun with it. It'll come through, especially in the Zoom format. It'll come through on the receiving side much better. You can get animated on stage when there's people around you, but it doesn't quite translate the same. So, like the recommendation Thelma had at the beginning, do something that is that you're passionate about and that it can really help you show through the story or stories that you tell. And if it's 3 minutes instead of 10, that's cool. If you can get the message across, put some use mixed graphics in your use.
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
do
that's a good one.
don't
Very
do the
good.
bullet PowerPoint thing, because that'll like turn off the kids right away. It's just like it's an automatic turn off, especially if we got a bunch of words on the screen. So save those for the stuff you post in Slack. It's good to prepare them and then have the information that's available. Somebody could always go back and look at it later on, and then come back and ask you questions about your pitch. Just be prepared to move quickly through the pitch session. And then again, if it sparks some interest, you'll get folks that'll drop into your session that afternoon and try to ask you some questions about it. So, try to not to overcomplicate, not to, over specify or design, and again, just have some fun with it.
And remember, your use case has a lot of really good details. So that doesn't really, so you don't need those kind of words in, and they're used to reading these. This is the 4th year that we've used this use case, and it's been very helpful. So you don't need to use a lot of words. Images are, left that out of my head altogether. Thank you, Garrett, for reminding them. Images are really powerful in when you only have 5 to 10 minutes to present.
And it does go really fast too.
And it goes really fast. Yeah.
Yeah. So just remember that. And if you practice, practice with literally like a 5 or 6 minute cap, because whatever you practice, it'll go faster when you're in the session.
And again, if you go to 11 minutes, I'm not going to cut you off. Now, I don't expect you to, but some people get nervous and it takes them a little longer, or they get nervous and they talk really fast and it's like, so I don't know which kind of nervous you guys might be, or you won't get nervous at all, but we don't cut you off, but we just try to give you 5 to 10 minutes is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Attention spans of everybody, including me. Like Garrett's saying, the age range is usually 5 minutes is probably too long. Sorry.
But if you can tell a good story, that'll actually go really far in getting the message across. And again, it's a little hard to measure how far people are leaning in when you're talking about the story, but it does give you a good way to stay on track and deliver your message in a pretty concise way and get people interested.
And one of the ways you'll know that you actually struck some chords is how many people show up in your room that afternoon. Right. So everybody, and we have teams who will rotate around because they want to talk, they want to pick your brain before they make their decision. So it's not like you're going to be in your own room right? So you will have visitors, they may come and go. So when you're in there, you want to just be prepared. You don't have to give a presentation, you just want to be prepared to answer questions and discuss, your hopes and dreams of your challenge. What else, Garrett? Anything else?
Oh, sorry, Thelma, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So on October 12th, So we're gonna be doing presentation that starts at 10 a.m. But then you said, oh, we should come back, by 1 p.m. or just like a little early. And what are we gonna be doing in the afternoon exactly?
We will set up 6 breakout rooms, assuming you all can make it. If for some reason you can't be there, you let me know, so I would just give everybody a heads up. We ask you to come back that afternoon and we put you in a breakout room. And then we open your breakout room so that people who, I call participants, and those are people who set up teams and plan to code a solution. They'll come around and they'll ask you questions. Can you answer, because they take notes. I have watched them both in person and on the screen where they're like taking notes, and they'll like the high school teams will split up, like you take that challenge, you take that challenge, and then they'll go and they'll ask, and then they'll go back to their high school that next week and figure out which challenge they want to work on, because they actually have to pick their challenge on Tuesday. So they have to create their team, fill out all the forms, and pick the challenge they're going to be working on by 5 p.m. Hawaii time, Tuesday, October 15th. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sitting in the room and having guests come by and talk with you.
Yeah, don't
And-
ask like random stuff, and some will just sit there and listen, which is their way of collecting intel too, right? Yeah, right. Exactly. So,
Yeah, it drives me crazy that there will always be that one person or persons who come in and they sit there, they don't ask any questions, but then when everybody else is asking questions, they're taking notes, and it's really like, hey, quit piggybacking. Get your own questions. But transparency. Now we don't record. We tried once before to record in the breakout rooms. That failed miserably. So this is just, if for all my comments about transparency and everybody sharing equal playing field, if you can't be bothered to go into the room and visit the challenge sponsor either on this day or the Saturday, then you lose out. There's times where you have. I think that if you're trying to create a submission or create a solution for a challenge, then you better be damn well engaged with the challenge author, right? You have to go and talk to them. You can't just go, oh, look at this, and then HECO had a EV challenge a few years ago, and oh my God. He had 13 teams wanting to solve his challenge. It was like a but man, he was there. He was supplying data. It was insane. If I went back, he had like these long engaged conversations with all the people, and the solutions they came up with were incredible. This was like a 2.5 week challenge, and that's all we had that year, because I think that was the year the governor Ige was retiring, and he had a very short window when he was in it. It was just madhouse. So I also think if you're going to be out in the real world and you're going to be coding solutions for people or helping develop solutions for people, you better get used to talking to the people who have the problem. So if they're too shy, they should at least be in the room. But I would like them to, and I say this when I'm on the kickoff, ask questions, don't just sit there. So I try to encourage them to become better potential future employees to people. So by learning, because one of the purposes of this event is to help people expand who they are as a future employee or entrepreneur, right? I often tease people who are entrepreneurs. So you change one boss for 100 bosses, right? So when I created a SaaS product myself, and so every client we had, they were my boss telling me what they needed and what I needed to change and what I needed improvement. Could you add this feature, right? Rather than me working for a company and having one boss that said, Thelma, we need these changes and these features, right? So it's a good experience to have to actually talk to the end users. And in a sense, you guys are one component of the end user image. I know you have probably users underneath you who you are targeting your solution to. So there's two types of end users and people who are going to be using your solution or who have the challenge. So you want to make sure you communicate that to them as well, because they need to program for both of those types of users. So anyway, I won't belabor this any further. Any other questions?
Yeah. So, and then October 19th, we're going to have another like a breakout session. Yeah. So I guess
Same
you
thing.
mentioned that on October 15th, they have to submit the like the form. So I guess on 19th, so we're going to be talking to these people who chose your challenge, right?
Exactly.
And for the time, it's because I have to block my calendar. Otherwise, so it's going to be between 10:30 and
11:30 to
11:30.
about, sometimes it runs over. So I usually try to keep it about, we have a session before that goes from 9:45 to about 11:30. You guys, there's a short break. You guys come on 11:45. It goes to 12:45, 1 o'clock. We don't like shut people down, because sometimes you guys get into a really good conversation and we don't want to say, okay, time's up, goodbye, right? So I recommend you being available from about 11:30 till about 1 o'clock, blocking that out on your calendars. And again, that session's going to tend to be more focused. Those are going to be people who have now decided they want to work on your challenge. Okay.
That makes sense.
And to answer a question I get every time is, I have never had a situation where nobody works on one challenge. I have never had that happen.
That would be embarrassing if nobody works on ours.
Yeah, it's never happened. I think they know that they should spread themselves out because, or they pick the things that are most intriguing to them. So.
Oh yeah, if only one person, they would
I've had challenges where only 2 or 3 people apply. And then like last year, the really hard one was the Maui Lahaina challenge. It was very complex, very complex. And they only had like 4 or 5 teams that worked on it, and we had like 40 teams. So that's a small percentage, right? I think every team but one of those teams submitted a solution, and all of them made it to the presentation day, and 2 of them won first place and second place. And so
It's nice, yeah. And quick question, the presentation is on the 10th of October, which is not a weekend.
it's on the 12th of
Oh,
October.
12th. So 12th and the 19th, so those are the 2 days.
Yes, and if you want, I'll send out, okay, let me just ask this group here. Are there a particular day and time of that week, October 7th, that we could have we'd like to go do a little practice session? And that's just mostly to say, turn on your camera, turn off your camera, change your name. Can you share your screen? Anybody on a Mac? Anybody on a Apple computer? Okay. Here's what you need to be aware of on Apple computers. To share your screen, you have to set your settings to allow Zoom. Macs do not let you automatically share to Zoom. If you already have that setting set, that's fine. And I finally figured out, so you need, and sometimes when you start the share, it just asks you permission to do it. You have to have your computer's password, not your Zoom password. I struggled with somebody who had a Mac computer at a presentation I did on Friday, and finally the guy goes, "Oh no, you need your computer password." I went, "Oh, I'm so upset that I didn't realize," because I don't use Macs, right? So be aware that Macs require you to authorize the sharing of that file. So, and that's why one of the reasons I like to have a practice session is that we make sure that those kind of things are all glitched out or taken care of. Better to do it. So usually I like to do that on the Thursday or Friday before the event. Would that, if I did it about this time on that day, would that work for everybody? Thursday or Friday? Okay. I'll send out a practice session training email to you guys. Probably won't go out till tomorrow, but I will get one out to invite you to do a practice session. And we're good. So any preference to Thursday or Friday? Would you prefer Friday since it's closer to the day you'll actually be giving it? No preference?
No preference.
Okay, I'm gonna do 3 p.m. on Friday then. And then I'll give you more time to get your presentations completed. If you need any help or you have any questions, you have my email address. You have the ability to direct message me on Slack. I'm here to help in any way I can.
I just had a quick question. So after the kickoff on the 12th, is that when participants start like going into the Slack channels?
Mm-hmm. We already have, right now, at this very moment, we have 135 people already signed up on Slack. I've been promoting it since I set it up in August. I think that's when I set it up, end of August. So slowly but surely people are coming in. So we'll end up with about 300 or 400 people by the end of the kickoff. Ironically, just so you also know, I have the individual participant forms ready to go. I haven't opened up the team creation forms yet. I'm probably going to be doing that on Monday of next week. Right now, I already have 23 people signed up to participate. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
We usually get about 200 people who sign up, about 160 go on to teams. And we end up with about 40 teams. Of those 40 teams, about 30 do submissions. The teams submit their proposal on Monday, November 11th. They have to get a 60% or higher score for tech review. So they actually have to have something that works, or they don't get to present on presentation day. And then we limit the number of teams to 25 maximum. Otherwise, we'd be there all day doing presentations. And then we pick the highest scores to be competing. So. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I'm sorry I went a little over. I was hoping that I would go a little under, but better to get you the information than not. So
Appreciate that. Thanks.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Thelma.
All right. Thank you guys. Really appreciate your time today. Talk to you
Right.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Aloha.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.